Good evening and welcome to the Widdershins yarn. My name is Stevie.
And I'm Lillias.
And tonight we are continuing our foray around the terrifying landscape that is Silent Hill. And also what's really exciting is we have a guest with us tonight. My good friend Shane, who is a huge gamer, massive Silent Hill fan, and basically we're going to prod him with questions like a witch pricker for the next, God knows how long. But we know what's going to happen now. Intro music, intro music, intro music, intro music.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Yay, Shane, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy to have you here. Yay!
No problem, thank you.
So I would like to know, first of all, what is it about Silent Hill that you love, first of all? Like, what is your relationship with Silent Hill?
Oh, such an in-depth question for someone who likes video games. What I like about it so much is, at the time, when I first discovered it, when it first came out, back in the first couple of games, was that it was so different. It was the aesthetic of it, the atmosphere, the sort of monsters behind it, even just visually. As you get more and more into it, and I could for several days and hours with slides, but we won't. It's really reflective of the time, I guess, of when it came out, and the different themes in the different games reflect the team actually changing between working on the games and things like that. So I think it's pretty interesting. They kind of went for different things with every game until a certain point where they then just went, oh, right, we'll just keep doing this.
This makes money, edit copy and paste.
As most
totally.
series do.
Yeah, this is the formula. Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, I know what you mean about like the atmosphere and the aesthetic of it. Like, I mean, when I was a teenager, that's when I was first kind of introduced to it. And I mean, I played like the third one briefly, but the tank controls made me like run into monsters, not away from monsters. And
it was the controls' fault.
Oh, it was. Thank you. It's always it's always the controls' fault. But like, I was just a bit like, can't cope, can't deal. But I used to watch my friends play it, and it's mesmerizing as a series, and at the time, fucking terrifying. Like,
oh yeah,
just everything about it.
Yeah, I didn't play it because it was just too scary. I used to watch my friends play it a lot, but too scary for me.
I'm curious as to your opinion on Silent Hill as the actual town, because to me, I almost feel like Silent Hill, the actual town, is almost like a character itself within the games. And I was kind of wondering, what is your take on what Silent Hill, the town, actually is? Like, what is it? Enlighten me, because I'm like, I don't fucking know. It seems like it's a thing that like eats people. So what would you say it is?
Well, again, with trying not to be vague, but it kind of depends on the game. It really is a pivotal figure, I would definitely say, in games like Silent Hill 2, where it's all about being in Silent Hill and things like that. Whereas it is, in the first games, it is a place, it's a town where these things have happened. Horrible things happened in a small town, and it's not the town that has the abilities. We'll get into it a bit later, but it's the person there that has the abilities. It's the people that are affecting it rather than the town.
Okay.
Whereas later on, it's kind of like town affecting people, if you see what I mean.
Okay, so it kind of shifts then between the games.
Yes.
So would you say then, kind of like in the first game, is it like the black magic that's happening within the town that's affecting it? Like, what's going on? Like,
yeah, so it's definitely the people that have caused the problems, and the town is just the setting for where everything's gone down, basically. The sort of mainstay of the first game, it's a cult,
okay,
a religion, the Order, they have caused the problems and they have made the town what it is. Whereas then you could possibly say, because they've started that, then in later games it's the town that draws people in and causes problems.
Okay, that's interesting. See, bloody religion.
I know.
It's always religion. I'm like, for fuck's sake, guys. Like,
See, when I was doing a bit of research and stuff, so I could like come up with questions that weren't just like Silent Hill good. There was a moment I was typing it in on my phone to be like such and such in Silent Hill, and then I misspelt it as hell, and I was like, oh, it's taking me over 20 years. But it kind of comes across like it's like a personal hell, where a lot of, because it seems like it's individual for different characters in it. At least I can't remember if it's one or two that's like that. And it's like their kind of moral choices are like reflected in the town and stuff like that. And I think there's one part where there's like a little kid there, and the little kid just doesn't see the monsters or anything like that because they've not done anything that would warrant the manifestation of these awful things. Because they're just doing it.
That's a lot. That's Silent Hill 2 for the most part. Where I said they kind of were doing different things in different games. Silent Hill 2 is actually my favorite, but I suppose should have said it straight out, but spoiler warning. But pretty much the context of Silent Hill 2 is kind of that if you're there for a reason. You've been drawn there. Everyone there is there because of something that's happened.
Right.
The character you play as in the second game, the monsters that you fight, they are sort of reflections of his psychology.
Right, okay.
So those are what he sees and he interacts with because of his mind. That's not necessarily what everyone else is seeing and interacting with.
Yeah, because then there's pyramid heads in that one, isn't it? Because I was looking at, I was a little pyramid head fangirl, right? I love Pyramid Head. I thought it was just such a cool design for a character, all this kind of stuff. Looking back now, I'm like, was that like the embodiment of toxic masculinity?
You're mostly correct there, yeah.
Yes.
Toxic masculinity on his part, and I suppose other people will argue it's up to interpretation, but toxic masculinity and there's a sort of sexual frustration element of it as well, which is why without going into it, that's why it does the things it does.
Wait. Oh no, I don't know if I want to ask if what Pyramid Head does.
I'll explain to you later, darling. It's okay.
I feel like I'm being shielded. We were talking at the moment about Pyramid Head. Why the Pyramid Head?
Visually it's based on there's a painting in one of the games you can see where it's basically what the dress of the old age executioner of the town looked like.
Okay.
So it's kind of a visual representation coming from that.
Almost like a KKK hood kind of thing.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you could say that. I've just, not that I'm saying you're wrong, right, and that sounded weird. I haven't thought of that. So I'm like, oh yeah.
I'm trying to think of visually what it would.
I suppose big, intimidating. You can't see the face, sort of.
And I guess if it's that idea of repression, it's almost as well that kind of idea of entrapment, physically around. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that's what I think.
Silent Hill 2 actually introduced the more sexualized versions of the nurses. That then they took a step back from in 3 and then kind of went full blown into, because everyone loves a sexy nurse with a face, but that's why there's reasons why they have no face but they're really sexualized.
Is that because it's all about objectification?
Yeah, and it's part to do with another character as well, Mary, his wife. So
okay, that's fascinating. Okay, so if all the phenomena and the creatures in the second game, are kind of based around the main character. Obviously, you've said, like, for the first game, it's about what the cult is kind of doing within the town. I would like to ask about Alessa Gillespie, who is obviously, like, probably the pivotal figure in the first game, correct?
Oh, poor Alessa. Yeah. She had a rough life.
Oh, poor Alessa. Yeah, poor dear. So, yeah, like, because, I mean, 1 and 3 link. Alessa and Heather link, don't they?
Yes.
Okay, and Alessa and the main character's daughter in the first game link.
Yes.
Okay, so there seems to be lots of stuff going on there, so I kind of want to just, like, strap in and be like, okay, Shane, Alessa, what's going on with that?
Okay. So, to explain what you just said, well, like, once again, spoilers. They're all the same person. So, first there is Alessa. Alessa has, I mean, I could go into it, but very bad things happen to Alessa. She has abilities. So,
Okay.
she splits herself into sort of two.
Right.
Cheryl is the part that she splits from herself and sort of sends away to get away from what's happening. Then that's the sort of reason that Cheryl, for the first game, is drawn back to Silent Hill.
Okay, so she's literally drawn back to herself then, which is interesting.
And Heather is sort of a reincarnation.
Right. Okay.
So they're all kind of the same person.
That's fascinating, because I think in and of that speaks to psychology as well, in terms of this idea of trauma and, like, fractured selves and all that kind of thing. Alessa, she is psychic, I'm assuming. Then she has some kind of psychic ability.
Yes, so she has a few abilities. She has, I think they just sort of classify it as psychic powers. She can astral project. She has premonition in some games, like a sort of sixth sense. Telekinesis, pyrokinesis. She has sort of access to different things in different games because of different things that have happened.
Right. Okay. So, but what is Alessa's connection with the cult then?
So her mother, Dahlia Gillespie, is a member of the cult.
Okay.
So that's how she's brought into it. I mean, for the final time, I guess I'll just say spoilers. So the cult basically want to bring forth their god.
Okay.
And Dahlia chooses to use Alessa because of her abilities. As a vessel to bring forward the god.
Okay. That is terrifying.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's terrifying. Okay. The god is Samael, right?
Not real. Kind of, not really. They kind of just call it the god. It gets called sometimes the mother or the daughter, or sometimes the incubus, depending on what you do in the game.
Ooh, okay.
It kind of depends. But the god, well, it depends on the intentions as well of the person, because depending on what you do in the game, it's not necessarily evil until other people sort of intervene with bad motives.
That's interesting. Okay. Would you? I mean, because obviously I know that you enjoy Lovecraft's mythos. Would you say that, like, Lovecraft's mythos has kind of influenced Silent Hill then? Because it's like, it almost sounds like the god is kind of beyond human comprehension, so can kind of, its morality is difficult to ascertain.
I would actually say, I mean, if you're going to say they drew from any religion, I think there's definitely some heavy
Catholic religion when it comes to the sort of
There's
motifs.
a lot of morality.
Especially the motifs you see in the game with like
Right.
you'll come across stained glass windows and things like that.
Okay.
I think with the order itself, there's I suppose so they can do different things in different games. There's different sects in the cult who follow different things in it.
Okay.
So even within the cult, there's different people who have different ideas of what they should be doing, like most religion.
Oy vey, yes. Yeah.
So yeah, I
Okay.
mean, and depending on the games, they link to different things. I try not to go too much into it. I mean, there's some games will reference kind of Native American stuff. Some games
Hmm.
they reference the Salem witch trials as like a figurehead for that. So, but they definitely talk about saints and things like that. So it's probably
So very Catholic then,
Yeah.
really.
occultism and maybe more satanic than Catholic, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess with satanic, it's inverting Catholic imagery, isn't it? I guess. Okay, that's interesting because I'm pretty sure I've seen Alessa and characters like Heather referred to as like the Mother of God. So again, that's
Yeah.
kind of like a Madonna reference, and I mean like the Madonna, not like Madonna.
Like a
yeah.
virgin.
Like a virgin, touched by the
Well-
very virgin. Sorry.
when I
Sorry.
said earlier, I mean, I don't know why I'm trying to avoid spoilers and allude to things, but when I say they want to use or to bring forth God, they want her to birth God.
Oh, okay.
But they kind of just summon God into her body.
Oh.
Which is again very virgin birthy and
Yeah,
Oh,
well, yeah,
wow.
well, especially if, I mean, Alessa's a child, so that's
Yes.
fucking
Oh,
terrifying.
no.
Yeah, no, Alessa's a child. Like, she's, like, she's a child. So,
Between the ages of 7 and 14, depending on when it is in the timeline.
yeah, that's terrifying. Yeah. That's my 2 cents. Yeah, well, I mean, without meaning to kind of completely wallop Catholicism over the head, but I mean, I guess in that, I mean, that's blatantly child abuse. Do you know what I mean? So I guess there's almost like references there as well.
There's
Well,
parallels.
but there are. Why did I just imagine you sort of like appearing to the side of the screen like parallels? But do you know what I mean? I guess it is that kind of like satanic parallel thing.
So I remember in the Silent Hill that I played when I was younger, anyway, that the fog was kind of everywhere, and it was like so atmospheric for the game, because you couldn't see, more than a couple of feet in front of you, so you had no idea where you were going, no idea what was coming up, all of that kind of stuff, and the whole aesthetics of that game were so like horrific in that it was a horror game because just everything about it was scary, and they built suspense in such a good way as well. So I was interested in like your point of view, because you love this horror game so much. What is there things about it that you still find scary and that still kind of creep you out and stuff, or have you become like accustomed to its horrorness now?
Shane has a black heart, so
I mean, so do I, but
it's
I still
true.
get spooked.
This is gonna not. I don't want it to be sounding like I'm not scared of anything, but I'm just. I think a lot of people who are really into horror are quite desensitized to things like that, and we don't get like. It can be scary and it can make you jump, but it's exciting and it's funny rather than be scared. But there's definitely, I think a lot of the stuff you maybe glance over when you're playing the game because you're like, oh, I have to shoot a thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Sort of lore things you pick up and read. When you actually like read into them, you're like, and actually think about it, you're like, oh, that's actually quite horrific. Like the first game, the fact that when you're going through this world and everything, but then when you find out, what actually happened to Alessa, it's like really quite sad and quite horrible. So that's probably more horrific. I think, yes, there are monsters, but it sounds like one of those PSAs, isn't it? But it's like, there are monsters. Obviously, they're going to eat your head, whatever. But it kind of shows you how horrific people can be.
Mm.
Yeah.
See,
that's probably more scary.
It like suddenly reminded me, just speaking of the fog and stuff there, of this time my cat went missing. I think it's this weird kind of, right, I can explain.
Sorry, I just wasn't expecting it.
I'm not phrasing this well, but it's this weird thing of like, I don't watch horror films, I'm terrified of horror games, like, the horror genre scares the living crap out of me. Like, I appreciate all of the parts that make it scary, I appreciate the music scores, all of this kind of stuff, and how it all works to make something scary. I do appreciate it. It just scares the living shit out of me. But, so my cat went missing, and it was like 11 o'clock at night or something. I'm wandering around the wee streets of my village in the like thick fog trying to find my cat, and I'm taking all these photos to show Stevie later of like the play park covered in fog and all this kind of stuff, just so that I could send them to them afterwards and be like, here's where the clown should have killed me. Oh, and I checked out the abandoned cottage. She wasn't inside. And then I went outside and I lost all my phone signal. Nobody could hear me down here.
Well, I think
that walk, shows. Not scary at all for me. I found it really, really funny. Despite the fact usually I find like the things that humans can do more scary than like horror concepts and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think it's maybe because I'm like, well, there's not going to be a monster, there's not going to be a ghost. There could have been an axe murderer, though, so,
well, there could have been an axe murderer. Anyway,
sorry. What you've just said actually is a really good example of the thing with the game as well. Something that's completely innate and normal, and it can be terrifying just because you can't see it. So something that's normally not scary at all, like a play park, is absolutely terrifying when there's fog everywhere, it's dark. You're like, oh god, what's happening? Nothing. And I guess but your head.
In the games, you know that there's monster things out there, so you know that that's a possibility that coming from behind the swings is going to be a flobbity legs thing or whatever. Whereas in my wee village, that's not very likely. I was hoping for a cat.
Okay, so Shane, like, so you feel then through horror you get like that sense of thrill, on like if we're talking like basic level, like it gives you that sense of thrill. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So on a Friday night, Shane and a bunch of other people have been watching me play Resident Evil 7, and I just scream my way through it. And it's like I just want to stay.
Funny.
I just want to stay in the safe room and not actually leave and encounter anybody or anything.
But no one forced you to do that. You volunteered.
I know. No one forced me to do it, but like I don't know. I'm trying to do more things that frighten me. So.
Well, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's one of the least deadly things you can do if you're trying to do things that frighten you. So.
Right. But so I'm not gonna lie, like Resident Evil 7 scares me shitless. Like I genuinely get anxiety apprehension earlier on in the day before I play it, right? However, what's really interesting is Saturday morning when I woke up, because I was having like a really shit day Friday. Really shit day. Really shit day. And probably because I had missed my meds for 2 days by accident. But you know. Who knows? But like I felt really bad, really low. And then Saturday, after I played it, it was almost like because I'd actually scared myself so much, I literally felt like I had like a slight cathartic euphoria high. And I was like, what is this? I don't, it was really, like, it was strange. And I don't know, like, I wonder if that's like a thing.
Absolutely. That a lot of people who are really into horror that's one of the big things about it. Really cathartic, a really good release.
I think horror can be like roller coasters and stuff sometimes. Is that I think the thing that's fun about a roller coaster is that it's scary and you feel like there's a chance you're going to die, and afterwards you feel great because you didn't die. If you know what I mean.
It's
And
safe
so horror kind
danger.
of emulates that a little
Well,
bit.
it's that it's what that theorist Isabel Pinedo, because I just need to slot my anthropology in here a little bit, because
Does she have a degree, Del?
she does have a degree. Technically, she has two. But anyway, no, like
I've got an HND.
that's fine. It doesn't
I've got a
matter.
certificate.
What I mean is that it is that recreational terror thing that she was talking about. Like, it does. I forgot to read the rest of the article, but it does have it does have a psychological effect and a psychological release. And I can say I've done that firsthand. And Shane,
Yay.
aren't you proud of me? I want to hear you say, so I can have it recorded so that you're proud of me.
Okay, hang on then. Let's do it properly. What do you want me to say?
I want you to say that you're proud of me.
I'm proud of you.
There we go, thank you. Oh my god.
You can play that
I'll
back
cut that tiny little bit out for you, yeah?
in the late hours of the night.
Yeah, just be like...
Set it as your ringtone for any time there's a text.
I'm like, oh,
Son, I'm proud of you.
yeah. I'm like, Shane's calling. Proud of me. Validation. Notice me, senpai. I don't know. I don't know. But
This was all a ruse just to get me to praise you.
it is. It's all a ruse, Shane, just to get you to praise me. That's all I want in life. Okay, so if we're talking about the first game, what do you think that game then is trying to say? What is it saying potentially about like the human condition, or like?
I would say my initial answer, trying to be funny and just like whatever, would just be sometimes things aren't. It's a game. It's not really trying to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think at first, because I don't think they planned on it, to become like however many games it is now.
Mm-hmm.
You just put these things out because you want to put forward an aesthetic, an idea. If you really want to think of something in the first game, it really revolves around, I suppose, family. Because there's different relationships. The main character, his love for his daughter, he'll do anything. He'll go to this place to get her back. And then there's Dahlia, the mother of Alessa, and what she's done and what she's put her daughter through. There's really two really different sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
I also thought, just randomly, I thought it was quite interesting having a dad going after his child rather than a mum.
But is that because there's like game design misogyny and this idea that like I don't know, like a dad is the one able to go and like physically defeat the monsters and all that kind of like, do you know what I mean? Or because I mean there are plenty of like really strong video game heroines, so probably not, but I don't know. What do you think?
At the time that game came out, though, there wasn't that many, because, I mean, I remember playing games back in the 90s, and Lara Croft or nothing, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say you're not wrong there, probably. I just quite enjoy that side of things as well, because out with other games, usually just that type of relationship would be it would be the mum and the daughter sort of thing. So I just kind of liked that side of things, especially because I mean, in a broader spectrum, Harry is a widow. This is his adopted child, so it's kind of like
It's a very unconventional family for the 90s.
Yeah, for the time. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really
That's
good
cool.
point, actually.
I'd never saw it that way. I thought of it that way. That idea of the dad doing anything to save their child has become a kind of video game trope to an extent now, But I imagine at the time it came out, there probably wasn't any other game that I can think of anyway that was like that. Because now I'm thinking about like Heavy Rain and stuff like that, where the whole concept of the game is the dad will literally do anything to get the child. I cannot play that game. I can't be near people playing that game. As soon as people play that game, I start to have nightmares where horrible things are happening and I need to press square quickly, and it's just too much for me. I can't take that kind of pressure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Especially not if kids are concerned. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, Heavy Rain though, that was a beast. Well, that was really good, Shane. Thank you so much for giving us your insight into like your experience of the game and your relationship with the game. And it's just really interesting to kind of have someone who's really invested in it, like their perspective. So it's been really interesting. Thank you.
No problem. If I can ever help by rambling about something again, let me know.
Can we make Shane like our official like games expert person? If we need to talk about a horror game, we can just like drag you on. We'll do that.
Yes, you will have a badge and a hat and a t-shirt.
Anyway, like thank you so much, Shane, for coming. Thank you everybody for listening. I have been Stevie.
I've been Lil.
I've been here.
You've been here. Shane's been here.
Right. Love yous.
Love yous. Bye.
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 They're coming to get you, Barbara.